Hello and welcome to the Ovary Jones Show. If you too heard those words, you've got cancer, this is the place to be. Here we talk about how to fight cancer without losing your mind. I'm your host, Melanie Holscher, author of Becoming Ovary Jones and founder of Together We Box. Today I am excited to introduce you to somebody I wish I met way earlier. She is just so inspirational and she has so many amazing practical tips. So I'm excited to introduce you to Patty McBee. Patty, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Melanie. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about your cancer journey. What were you doing before you were diagnosed? Tell me about that.
Well, I was shuffling the kids back and forth to school. My oldest had just gone off to college, or he was getting ready to go off to college. And so I was really immersed in my family life. And I had been going every year to get a mammogram. And the past 3 to 4 years prior to the diagnosis, I kept having to go back to get more testing done. So I had, they told me I had dense breasts. So I was like, well, maybe I'm just fat. I don't know. So they would do an ultrasound or they would repeat the mammogram and it was fine. So on one of those repeat visits, which are always a little bit scary, sitting there in your gown waiting to go to the next stage back there,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the techs said to me, you might consider getting an MRI. And I'm thinking, never thought about that. So my next visit, I asked, my doctor at the time, do you think that I could get an MRI? And they were running some kind of a trial at the time where you could go in if you were at high risk. And I was considered high risk because of how many repeat screenings I had to do. And I did have some family history, although you would be very surprised at the statistics of you don't have to have family history to come up with breast cancer.
Right.
So I did have some. So they were always kind of thinking of me as maybe high risk. So when I went in to meet the oncologist slash surgeon, she said, I'm sure you're going to be fine. Just, after this visit, we'll do a baseline MRI so that we'll have it in your record so that we know what your breasts look like, so that if anything ever comes up again, we can compare it. So I was like, fine, no big deal. A little claustrophobic, did the MRI, was getting ready to go to a conference in Orlando that I go to every year with my company. And I was so excited, how us girls do. We like to buy new clothes and new makeup. So
Yes.
I was in the dressing room and I had like this huge pile of these dresses that I was going to try. And I was so excited. And of course, it was on a Friday. So on Friday, I get a call from somebody I don't know. And he says, well, I'm calling to give you the results of your MRI. Not my doctor, not anyone I knew. No, you might want to sit down for this. And he said, you have cancer. And I was like, wait, who are you? And he proceeded to tell me, you have breast cancer. The MRI saw something, on your breast. So, and I said, okay, so what am I supposed to do? Because he was just like this messenger, like, ta-da, you have cancer.
Right.
And I'm standing in there all by myself
Oh,
and thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I said to the man, I said, well, what am I supposed to do now? And he said, well, I guess call your surgeon, bye bye, have a nice day.
oh my.
So it was like, your pizza's ready. So um, I put my clothes back on. I kind of stumbled back out, left, of course, all the dresses in the dressing room
Oh,
and started crying. And I was like in a daze. And the, the poor lady in the women's department was like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was like, no, I just found out I have cancer. And she didn't know what to say, of course.
right.
So, made my way home, went in to see the doctor. She assured me that I was going to be okay. So it was very early stages in breast cancer. It's called DCIS. And so the surgeon was like, this is no big deal. You don't need a second opinion. Everything's fine. This is exactly, the protocol. You'll be fine. So I had the lumpectomy. I went through the 30 straight days of radiation
Mm.
and I rang the bell. A lot of places they have that bell. I was like, I
Yep.
rang the bell. I am done. I remember my eldest son took me, the one that was getting ready to go off to college. So, or had gone off to college at that point. Sorry, this was like December, I think, when I was finished. And I was, so happy. And I was like, okay, this is it. I've done my time. I had the cancer and I beat it. Yay.
Yay.
And, it really wasn't that bad. So went about, my normal life. And of course, at that point, I was very grateful that, they had caught it very early. And if I hadn't asked for that MRI, so tip here, if they keep telling you you have dense breast, you should probably ask for an MRI.
Absolutely.
So that was December, went through Christmas. Everybody was so happy in my family. And, you go back in, increments. Now, this was 2009. And so when you asked me the exact, times and dates and how many chemos I had and what was the name of my chemotherapy, in the beginning, you remember all that. Like it's part of your vernacular. But right now, I can't remember it all. Thank goodness. So my tip here is that one day, if you're going through cancer, one day you will forget you ever went through that until someone asks you a question, or you, in my case, you see pink, or you go on a walk.
Yes.
So got through Christmas, and you're supposed to go back every certain amount of months. And for some reason, I scheduled the appointment, or they scheduled the appointment 1 month earlier than I should have actually gone in. And I don't believe in coincidences. So I was laying on the table and I was thinking, ta-da, I have a little tan around my chest area, but I'm good. And I was taking my, tamoxifen because I had hormone positive for the first cancer. So Kendra Horn, I'll never forget her. I love her dearly to this day. When I mention her name, my husband cries because she was so thorough at my exam. She, kept looking away and thinking and touching everything. And I was just carrying on, a chatty conversation. I think this was March or April. So I had just finished in December, March or April. She says, Miss McBee, what is this I feel on the other breast? I'm like, I've been doing my breast exams, Kendra. I know that there's nothing there. So she was feeling up under my bra line where your underwire would go. And she said, here. And she took my hand and she said, feel this. And I said, no, that's my breastbone. There's nothing wrong with that. She said, feel the other side. And I was like, oh. She said, see how it feels rocky? No, I don't want to know that, So, but I thought, she's really thorough and it's probably nothing, but it did hurt. Like that area was very sore. And, a misnomer that people hear is that cancer doesn't hurt. Well, it hurt. So, it hurts.
Right.
So I even remember telling my mom, it was over Easter break or something. And I remember telling my mom, it hurts. And she said, well, then it's probably not cancer because cancer doesn't hurt. Okay, I'm holding on to that. So I went in, they got me in very quickly and they did an ultrasound and they said, we need to do a biopsy. So they did the biopsy and it came back that it was indeed cancer, but it was a different type of cancer. And this one was very aggressive.
Oh.
So, I don't know if they missed it in the first go round when they were doing MRI of my breasts. I kind of doubt it. I don't know if they missed it on the second or first mammogram I had. Maybe, but I had it. So went to this lovely doctor, like so sweet and so knowledgeable. He's an oncology surgeon for breasts only. He specialized in breasts and he was a plastic surgeon. So I went to him and he said, listen, and he was so honest, which, not a lot of people, want to cover themselves or, hospitals want to cover themselves. And he said, honestly, Miss McBee, I don't know if we missed it or if it's just super fast growing. So we want to get in there and start chemo right away. So within days, I had my first chemo treatment and I was scared because, my brother had gone through chemo and he, had gotten very sick and all the movies you see when people are going through chemo, they're so sick, they're
Right.
throwing up all the time, they can't function. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I went in, and I would recommend, this is just my personal recommendation, that if you need to go and have chemo, maybe ask to see the lab so that it's not so scary. People are not running to the bathroom, and it's
Yeah.
quiet, and
Yes.
depending on where you have your treatment, water and ice, and you can eat food. One of my best friends came in from Florida and rubbed my feet during a few chemo treatments. It's not such a scary place. The first time you have that treatment, it is scary, but to know that it's uncomfortable, but it doesn't make you sick right then and there. So that's what I would recommend. That's just my little blurb there. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I was afraid too, and
yeah, yeah,
but there's a saying that I tend to lean toward, and it's fear makes the wolf bigger than he is.
I
So I
like
think when
that.
we lean in, and I think that's a great tip to go in and just ask to see the cancer lab. Usually they're very beautiful. It's a relaxed setting,
Right,
and you can get to know the nurses, and it's actually quite pleasant. So a
right,
great tip there.
yeah, right. Well, I also had a customer who played the harp, and she wanted to come and play the harp for me.
Oh.
Um, she wasn't allowed to, unfortunately, but I think if she hadn't asked, the people in there would have loved it.
Mm,
So I had so many people reach out, and try to help, which is, so important. Um,
absolutely.
I remember, I know I'm digressing, but I remember right when I was finished with the second treatment, I saw that a friend of a friend had been diagnosed with cancer and was going in for her first infusion. And I showed up with like a little gift bag, and, she didn't know me, but I just felt like, the more support you have, really the better.
Really, truly. I believe that
So,
too.
yeah, so I went through all the treatments, and, the strong chemo, and the nights of not feeling well. I mean, let's face it, that's going to happen.
Hmm.
I learned a couple tips there. Um, Somebody told me that if you get, I forget what it's called even, but if you get the drug the next day to, you know, boost you up afterwards, that it's very painful, and that doctors give you like really strong medication. But somebody also going through treatment told me, and told everyone that would listen, just to take like a leave, or, something that would help with the bone aches and the muscle aches. So
Hmm.
that works too.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, so I went through the treatment, and my family was very supportive, and I was very scared. But I was able to work through a lot of it because I work from home. And, um, so I was able to work through the days that were fine. I did lose my hair,
Hmm.
which it's so interesting because I remember as it was happening thinking, this is the worst thing ever, because, women, we love our hair, right? We find the best hairstylist, the best color, it's so important, right? So I remember saying that out loud. My son was in band, and I remember saying it out loud. And one of the band moms was a survivor. And she said, believe me, Patty, that is not the worst thing.
Right.
So, um, but anyway, so at the time, my insurance company, just so you know, too, there was the Cancer Act. I can't remember if I should have looked this up. It might have been 1986, but your insurance company has to cover certain things for you. Your prosthesis. If one side is different than the other, they have to provide the surgery. If you're going to have reconstruction, all those things. So I went in to get my wig that was ordered for me, and my friend went with me, and it was very coarse blonde hair. So I think it was a different texture hair than mine, that they had dyed blonde, like white blonde. Like, do you remember Miss Piggy?
Yeah.
You remember that hair she had? It was like flowing and thick, and that was the hair. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do with this? So they said, in the boutique where I got the hair that my insurance paid way too much for, I have a really great hairdresser that can help you with your wig. So, I'm thinking, okay, so I'll go to this hairdresser in a very posh area of Atlanta. I sit down in the chair, and she looks at my hair because I hadn't, lost all of it yet. And she says, okay, this is what we're going to do. And she does all this and she tells me all this. And it's like some ridiculous amount of money, like $600.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, first of all, the texture is all wrong. Second of all, I'm not working that much right now. And, even though a lot of us have insurance, there's still so many extra costs that you don't think about,
Mm-hmm.
when you're fighting the battle. So I got in the car with my friend, and God bless her, she went back inside and she said, listen, we're not going to do this. Just let me have the wig back. And because I was embarrassed, I was like, oh, I can't afford that. So we took the wig and we left. And my friend called a hairdresser that she knew in my area. And because of that, he started like a breast cancer wig, kind of like when you ended up having breast cancer, you could bring your wig to him or you could cut your hair with him, and he barely charged me anything.
Wow.
Um, as fate would have it, or God would have it, his wife had just been diagnosed the week before I called him.
Mm.
So it's like a ministry to him now.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So
We have one in Pittsburgh that's called
you,
Hair Piece, I believe. It's done by Bonnie Diver. And she has a nonprofit that actually raises money. And she will actually, because not all insurance companies will pay for wigs.
the wig,
So
right?
she actually does great work in the Pittsburgh area anyway, of helping women because, you know, it's one thing to not feel well,
Mm-hmm.
but when we lose our hair in on top of it all, oh
Right.
come on.
It's like insult to injury.
Right?
Yeah.
So I know Bonnie Diver, at least in the Pittsburgh area, does a fantastic job. I'm sure there's, other people like this hairdresser in your area. I think you just have to kind of look around and see what resources are available for you
Right. Exactly.
because we are better together and we can
Absolutely.
all come together and help each other find different resources and things like that. I think it's just so much better.
Absolutely. Well, his name is Jackie Yates.
And what area?
He is he's north of Atlanta.
North of Atlanta, Georgia. Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
So, yeah, but in all my research, my friends call it Patty research. In all my research, I have found that, like you said, there are numerous entities out there that will help with wigs and hair, and the American Cancer Society. In my area, of course, this was way pre-COVID. They had a closet of wigs,
Wow.
and my friend took me down there and we tried on wigs and it was really fun. I tried on hair that I would never have in real life. I don't have a curl in my head. So I would try on, curly ones and red ones and short ones. And it was, it made it fun,
Yeah.
as fun as it could be. But
Right.
you're right. Not all insurances pay for wigs. I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
But I ended up not wearing the Miss Piggy hair after all. My chemo was through the summer, and I felt like if you couldn't stand to look at me with a hat on, bald, then you just have to look away.
Right. Well, wigs
I
are
wore a
hot
lot
in
of
the summer
hats. I
too,
had
especially
fun.
in
Yeah.
Georgia.
Oh gosh.
It was so hot. Yeah, I couldn't wear a wig all the time either. Wow.
No, it was miserable. It
Hmm.
was miserable. But anyway, so back to my journey of the doctor's office. So I went in to see him after my chemo was done, and my husband was with me and my mom was with me. And Dr. Carlson said, Patty, I didn't want to tell you this before, but we, as the tumor board, gave um, the chemo about a 50% chance of working.
Wow.
And in my mind, I had no idea. I mean, I was going to be healed. It was not a question of, was it going to happen? I was going to be healed. But imagine if he had said, well, there's a 50% chance. So I would be going around thinking, am I going to make it? It
Right.
just, it never occurred to me. I remember when my brother was diagnosed, the doctor told him, you have stage 4 stomach
Hmm.
cancer. And
Wow.
I was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you tell someone? He didn't ask. He didn't know anything about staging cancer.
Right. And the
And he
good
said,
news is,
yeah,
even with stage 4 these days,
absolutely.
they've come so far. I was
Look at
diagnosed.
you.
Right. So I agree with you. And it's such a mindset thing.
It
You,
is.
it really, cancer hijacks your mind and your body.
Absolutely.
So we have to, you know, stay positive, find ways to really focus on still living life and finding joy, even though the doctors are working on our bodies with all of the chemo and treatments, and believing in our treatment that that's what's best for us.
Absolutely.
So important.
That's absolutely right. And when I would get really down or start, like you said, in my mind thinking about all the things that were happening and how weird I felt, um, it felt so good to like get outside in nature.
Mm.
We put a lot of bird feeders out in the backyard, and I would sit and watch the birds. Another friend of mine said, I just want you to just start drawing, just draw things that you see. And I'm no artist. So, but it was great because you could sort of think about other things. I, I started yoga after my treatments, but I wish that I had started it before because I think that, it, it calms your mind as well as your body.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. Going for walks, talking to people about your feelings, talking to people about your journey, talking to people about your kid in college or the mortgage or just normalcy.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. So that must have been extremely disappointing when it came back. And you went about your way the first time, and you thought you were kind of scot free and just living
That's
life
right.
again. And then all of a sudden you hear the news and you figure out, oh my goodness, it's back.
Right.
So, how did you process that news that time? What helped you then?
Uh, well, in the beginning, nothing helped me. I was so angry. I was just so angry. I wasn't angry at God. I wasn't angry at anybody. I mean, I guess I probably was a little angry with myself. I kept thinking, did I not eat healthy enough? Did I bring this back because I ate too much sugar? Did I actually had a lady tell me that the reason I had breast cancer, I mean, she didn't say it exactly like that. She just said, well, mammograms cause breast cancer.
Oh, so you're
And of course,
thinking, did I have too many mammograms? Is this
yes,
my fault?
exactly.
The cancer shaming and that we feel internally, not saying somebody else is making us feel that way,
No,
but so many cancer patients that I've talked to, we feel guilty like we did something. We
exactly.
feel shame, or, and I don't know, that
Why?
that's not very helpful, right?
No,
So realizing that we're feeling that, that's one thing. We can't deny it. It's a valid feeling. But then letting that go and thinking more rationally, like, I did not cause my cancer. I
yeah.
think that's so important.
I think in the back of my head, I think you're right, and I wonder if men feel the same way or if women, because we're just, programmed when we have kids, we start feeling guilty right away. Like, did we do something wrong? Like I even started thinking, okay, I remember when the wine study came out, like you should drink a glass of red wine a day. I don't like red wine. So I always drank beer. So I was like, did I do this to myself in college? Did I drink too much beer? um, did I not eat right? But we were taking my son back to school in Charleston, and I was driving, and I put my foot to the pedal a little heavy, but not like not fly. I was so angry that I was flying up the interstate. I was probably going 90. I don't ever drive like that, but I was so mad. Like, this is not fair. I did my time. And, I've known, some people that have had to face it again. It's not like I'd never heard of it. It was just in my mind, did my time, I'm done.
Right,
Now, where did this one come from?
right, right. In actuality, you're right. Many, many, many people fight it multiple times.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And win.
and win, and
Yeah.
and absolutely. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think flying down the road and just, well, I don't really recommend that per se,
No.
but rolling the windows up and screaming and getting it all out, because we do have to feel all the feels, and then
Right.
we can work toward what is going to make me feel good in this moment. What can I do? What can I focus
Right.
on? Drawing birds, or
Right.
journaling, or
Right.
whatever, listening to podcasts. That's always a great thing to do.
Absolutely. Positive things.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, do you
absolutely.
have any success quotes or mottos that you like to focus on?
Well, all through my journey, and anytime I get, down or anything, I always go to, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And a really good friend of mine actually got a very soft baby blanket in pink with the, the silk along the edges. So, and she had that embroidered for me. So
Oh,
that was so nice to have that. Because I would say it over and over and over again when something was, when my port was being put in, or they couldn't get the whatever to flush, or anything. I would say I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that would give me so much encouragement. I even had a person that would text me, like if she said to me, you can text me anytime, day or night. And I would text her and say, I'm having a hard time tonight, like 3 a.m. And she would text me back with a uplifting Bible verse, or you've got this, or you're going to be okay. Because, in the middle of the night, it can be scary. You can
right.
think the what ifs. So yeah, so that really helped me. And when you said something about shaming, so that's interesting that you say that, because like we feel shame. The first diagnosis, I went ahead and went to my conference that I talked about,
Hmm.
and I told no one. Like, I did not want anyone to know. I don't know if it's because I thought it would be, they would say, oh, that girl, this is why she has cancer, or pity, or I just didn't want anyone to know. We
Yeah.
spent a whole week with some really good friends of ours, and I never told them. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Everybody kind of processes it differently. I've
There's a
had,
lot to
yeah,
process.
yeah,
It's a big scary word, and there's
it
just
is.
so many layers to it. And I think it's one of those you have to perpetually process it, because
Right,
those feelings will just come over you at any given moment. And I just think it's important to figure out, what can I do when I know those feelings are going to come flood over me? What can I
right,
do in that moment to get myself in a better place? And
right,
focusing on that verse, I think that's, amazing. Having friends to be able to text you at all hours of the night, because yes, the nights are pretty lonely sometimes.
hmm,
I think that's important. I just think we're better together when we have a support group.
right,
I remember I was trying to find podcasts and YouTube videos, anything positive that I could find, because every time I would go out and I would talk to somebody, they would very much want to relate to me. And so I could almost see them going into the attic and, going through boxes trying to find something that they can talk about that would relate with me.
mm,
And so they would always come up with a story. Oh, cousin Matilda had cancer. And they would tell me this amazing story about cousin Matilda, but those stories would never end very well.
yeah,
And I would leave thinking that didn't put me in a better place at all. So I
right,
was searching, searching, searching for positive things that I could hear, podcasts and miracle YouTube videos and whatever. So I just think it's important to tap into a group of like minded people when you're going through cancer. Not everybody is somebody that you want to spend a lot of time with. And we all have those people in our lives that
right.
they're fine whenever you're in a good place, but you really don't want to be talking to them whenever you're not in such a great place.
I think that's such a great point. I lost a couple of friends during that,
Wow.
not because they did anything detrimental to me; they just ignored me.
Mm.
It was like, she's the cancer girl,
Oh,
and I don't know what to say.
yeah. So you have some really interesting tips and things, helpful ideas for somebody going through the battle. And I remember when I was in chemo, I have my chemo buddy, Beth Parsons. She was that girl for me. She always had all kinds of interesting insight. For instance, she told me, oh, you should have asked for a handicap parking pass. Because I remember it was so difficult for me. I was so tired. My platelets were always in the basement. So for
Oh,
me to get into the grocery store to get some, probiotic or whatever and get back, it was a lot. And I just
sure.
never even thought about that. So you have some ideas with cleaning crews and everything else that I didn't even think about. Can you share some of those? And I know we're going to post some more of that from you
Right.
on the website, which I will gladly, reference.
Be great.
But share some of that. That was so fascinating.
Well, when you asked me, what, do you feel like you've done anything for, other cancer patients? Or, like I'm always amazed when people are able to write a book. And my plan back then was I'm going to get all this information together that I have in my journals, which by the way, I never found. But I have all this information in my journals, and I'm going to write like a trifold. This is 2011, 2012. And I'm going to get that, printed up, and I'm going to pass it out to, support groups and hospitals, because people need to know this information. Of course, I didn't do it, but I like to pull out the resources for people. And I think that's kind of how I coped too. Like I focused on something other than my health. I focused on, well, what's out there? How can I get help? And so I found this fabulous nonprofit. It's called Cleaning for a Reason. And they have funds, and they have certain cleaning companies throughout the country. And it's not in every zip code, unfortunately, because every time I find out that someone's diagnosed, I try to get this service started for them. And what it is they'll clean your house 1 or 2 times, I don't remember what it is, for free.
Wow.
And when you're going through everything and you don't feel well, and eating is a chore, or figuring out, how am I going to get to the school to pick him up at 6? Am I still going to not feel well? To have your house clean is fabulous. So it's also a great place to donate if you, want to help other people as they're going through their treatment. So that's a
Absolutely. That's
wonderful, wonderful thing.
fantastic. For me,
Yes.
taking a shower was a chore. Going
Yeah.
from my bed to the master suite, which is not that far away, that was some days that was a lot. So
Right.
that's fantastic.
Right.
And
Right.
meals too. There's
Yes.
places out there that are just so beautiful and so helpful. And I think part of our Wonder Woman mentality sometimes is, a pride thing. We don't want to ask or feel like put anybody out.
Sure.
But I think we really do just need to get over it and give ourselves some grace during that time
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
allow people to take care of us for a change, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are just so busy taking care of everybody
Yeah.
else.
You just kind of don't know how to let go and let other people do it for you. It's funny because I'm going to say it again, like there will be a day when you don't remember that you've gone through this, because as you're talking, I'm remembering all these things that I had forgotten. There's a thing on the website, Meal Train, and it's not specifically for cancer patients, but your friends can set up a meal train, and people that know you or don't know you can deliver meals to you. And again, don't know how that plays into the COVID world for right now,
Right.
but that was lovely. We
Mm.
put a cooler on the front porch, and small groups from church would drop off a full meal, or somebody would deliver some pizza, or not necessarily what I might want to eat, but for the family. And it was great because they need strengthening too. They're trying to hold you up and hold it together, and don't, especially if you have kids, they don't really know how to process all this. And so,
Mm.
to make it as normal in your life as possible is really helpful. So, yeah. And there's money out there. There are different corporations and different entities that have money that you can, different places have different qualifications. Again, even if you have insurance, you might be underinsured, or you might just need help with a copay for a while, or you might need help with your premium for a while. And I will send you the link, because all the things that I found and more, somebody else put together on a website. So, there was a scarf company at the time that gave away these beautiful scarves, and one of the flip-flop companies, Okeby here in Beaufort, did that, throughout the country at the time, gave everybody a pair of flip-flops. And I mean, it's just nice to have something else to focus on, but also to have something to make your life a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And if you're somebody that is trying to help someone else, those are great things for you to do, because not everybody can focus on the, material and financial things like that. that's my go-to, because then I don't have to really, think about the health part.
Absolutely. I just think it's so beautiful to even early on be able to think about somebody else. So even when you're fighting cancer, just be able to think about journaling and what could you do, sending out little thank you cards, sending out just cards, letting people know how much they mean to you.
Yeah.
I think there's just always things that we can do that will help put us in that better place
Right.
within our mind,
Right.
and just taking it day by day and sometimes moment by moment. But what
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to hear from you is there's a time when you can hardly even remember this
Yes.
chapter in your
Yes.
life.
Yes.
So I'm just so thankful. Thank you so much, Patty, for sharing your story and all of these. I will link this to this video.
Okay.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you're welcome to leave my email.
Okay.
I do have a Tupperware business. You're welcome to leave that.
Okay.
I'd
So,
like to give, especially during October, I like to give a percentage of my profit to, it's the Journey 2-day walk. And we do that on my birthday every year. And it's in Atlanta. And we just got finished with our walk. And our goal was to raise $1 million. And it's a small walk compared to other, the other big ones. But we raised almost $800,000. So that goes to research. It goes to specific hospitals to help specific people. Everything is very transparent. So I also have a website for that as well. If they want to get in touch with me, I would love to, hear if I can help anyone, or if they want me to text them in the middle of the night with Bible verses, or, I'm all about, helping other people. I mean, I promise you that when you get to the other side, like I've always been I like to sing. I won't say I'm a singer, but I like to sing. I sing everything. And my grandchildren laugh at me all the time because I sing how to put your pants on. So my friend Meyer told me, she said, I noticed when you were going through your treatments that you were not singing anymore. And I always have, I would always sing in the shower. So one morning, and again, no clue how long it took. One morning I was singing in the shower and I said, I'm back.
there you go.
So there is a day when you won't remember this, and that you, can get up and live your life, with all the mortgage and what are we going to have for dinner, and not think about it until someone asks you about it, or you find out about a friend that's going through it.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing that I hear from you is that while you don't remember the pain, you remember what a big impact cancer had on your life, and
Absolutely.
it changed you, but not in necessarily a bad way. So
Right.
you're still giving back, and I just thank you so much for that. And so your email address is tupperwarepatty1@gmail.com, correct?
Yay, that's
I
really
got it
good.
right.
Yes.
tupperwarepatty1@gmail.com. Patty,
Yes.
thank you so much
Thank you, Melanie.
for just sharing your story with us today. God bless. I look forward to talking to you again real soon.